Every time I record a video like this, I get flack from some of you who think that I am some kind of unthinking, zombified follower of Putin, and who think that I just believe that the Russian regime is beyond reproach, and who just think that I'm being a contrarian against the West and against the West's foreign policy and the West's rhetoric and so forth when it comes to Russia, and that if I looked at it more closely or more, I don't know, with greater scrutiny, I would come to the conclusion that Putin and Russia are no good. This is just all a preamble here before I cover this story that I'm about to cover. There's no way for me to convince those of you who feel that way that I am in any way otherwise. So I don't know if I'll even try, or I don't know why I should even try. I would say that, in great contrast to just about every Western country and the mouthpieces of just about every Western country out there, Russia does not seem to be standing morality on its head right now. Russia isn't out there advocating the mutilation of children who think they're occupying the wrong gendered body. They're not out there, advocating for one moral atrocity after another. They're not pushing drag queen story hour. They're not constantly denigrating white men. Somebody suggested, just like Muhammad Ali said, no Viet Cong ever called me nigger. Russia never called me white trash, or something like that. So I don't know. I as far as the actual what Russia is actually like, I don't know whether this is all a smokescreen. It could be. I'm not proclaiming that we have to take this, what I'm about to present to you, that we have to take this at face value. And by the way, I will leave the article, a link to the article below, so you can see for yourself what I'm about to talk about here. But anyway, let me just read from this article. Putin outlines vision of Russia's national identity. Okay, I've covered a couple of Putin talks recently, and here's another one. The basis, then this is from RT. Okay, I mean, criticize me for taking it from the Russian state media if you want. Who else is covering this story though? If it's covered anywhere in the West, I'm sure it's all just like, written in really snarky language and anyway, I'm getting it from the source, so no apologies there. The basis of Russia's national identity is respect for the past and loyalty to long-standing traditions, President Vladimir Putin has suggested, accusing a number of states of aggressively attempting to rewrite world history. Speaking at a government meeting on Tuesday, the Russian leader said that the basis of our national identity has been and remains the continuity of generations, loyalty to tradition, and high spiritual and moral guidelines. Putin added these guidelines were reflected, supported, and developed in Russia's culture, creative spaces, and all other aspects of everyday life, and have even been defined on the governmental level. Last week, Putin signed a decree on traditional values, which outlined the goal of state policy as the protection of Russia from socio-cultural threats. The document also defines traditional values as moral guidelines that are passed down from generation to generation and outline Russia's national identity. They include dignity, human rights and freedoms, patriotism, high moral ideals, strong family values, prioritizing the spiritual over the material, mercy, justice, mutual assistance and respect, shared historical memory, and national unity. Okay, so, these are vague. You could call them platitudinous, I guess, if you want. Dignity, what does that exactly mean? High moral ideals. But strong family values, that has a certain resonance to it, prioritizing the spiritual over the material. That strikes the eye. That stands out. That's not something you're hearing anyone saying anyone in any leadership position saying in the West. You don't hear any head of state talking about how we need to prioritize spiritual values over material ones. I've never heard anything to that effect. During his speech on Tuesday, Putin noted that attempts by a number of foreign countries to rewrite and reshape world history has grown more aggressive and sought to shake Russia's sovereignty by dividing the people and depriving them of guidance. Okay. Let me just see. All right, so it's not a very long article. That's about it. There's a little bit more to it than that, but I read most of it. So, in essence, what is being said here is that once again, Putin is speaking out in a manner that sets him very much apart from leaders of any Western country that I know of, in talking about the importance of tradition, of the retaining of the values that have been handed down from generation to generation. Now, he doesn't mention anything specifically here. He doesn't talk about, drag queen story hour. He doesn't talk specifically about feminism gone awry, and so forth. But he mentions strong family values. Of course, this is translated from the Russian. So if there's something in the translation that I'm missing that somebody out there knows, something important, then by all means feel free to pipe in and tell me. Strong, emphasis on the family. That's not something you're seeing in the West at all. In fact, that if they ever talk about the family, they say that it's just like, well, a family can be anything. There's not an advocacy for the traditional family. It's like, well, your family is just as valid if it contains this configuration as it is if it contains that configuration. And so it's thought that, talking about family values, it seems like a few years ago that family values was more of a buzzword in the West. And it set some people off, it set some liberals off. It seems like that sort of receded a little bit, but it is emphasized in this speech. Prioritizing the spiritual over the material. Again, I can't really emphasize that one enough. You don't hear that. You don't hear about that at all from Western. If Western leaders talk about the spiritual, it's all just like, oh well, we all have different explanations, or something, some advocacy of pluralism. Of course, you can be, you advocate pluralism while at the same time advocating that everybody agree on various issues, or else be cast into the outer darkness where there is gnashing of teeth and wailing and great wailing and despair, if you don't buy into the various things that they keep pushing on you, such as drag queen story hour and other such abominations. So their advocacy of in the West, the advocacy of pluralism is deeply hypocritical, because they don't, they they don't care who you are or what you call yourself, as long as you accede to their prescribed degenerate notions and ideas. But in Russia, it's the very opposite. Now, again, I don't know whether this means that Putin is a good guy. I don't know whether he's just advocating these things strategically. I'm not claiming to know anything like that, and I know people will still, assign those motivations and beliefs to me anyway. But just for the record, I'm not saying that. But what I will admit is that it's awfully refreshing to hear a leader of a country say things like this, that you're simply not allowed to say in the West if you're a leader of any kind. Also, advocating for moral guidelines that are passed down from generation to generation and outline Russia's national identity. I mean, that sounds pretty darn conservative. Now, of course, it's problematized by the fact of the 70 years when the Soviet Union was in existence. But if we can look beyond that, a little glitch, what seems to be being advocated here, and probably was being advocated even through the Soviet era, because there was a conservatism of thought and a certain traditionalism that survived even the Soviet era. There was never any cultural Marxism in actual Marxist countries of this era. Things were very traditional as far as the general state of masculinity versus femininity, the advocacy of the family, the general discouragement of what they would call aberrant types of sexuality, including homosexuality. I believe homosexuality remained illegal throughout the Soviet years and was looked down upon. So this speech, when seen in conjunction with Putin's other speeches, both recently and not so recently, there was the speech that goes back to 2013 when he was talking about what was going on in the West and how every kind of sexual union was seen as normative, increasingly things like pedophilia. He was actually saying these kinds of things, actually making these kinds of observations way back in 2013. And more recently, he's talked about cancel culture in the West and other such things. And here, it's all about national identity. And national identity is something that is traditional and passed on from generation to generation, and it includes strong family values, and it includes the valuation of the spiritual over the materialistic. There's something there that reminds me of Dostoevsky and his view of Russia versus the West. What he thought to be the corrupt and degenerate West, and how he saw Russia, as sort of a uniquely exceptional nation, and the role that it would play in revitalizing the spirit of the world, the entire world. You see a bit of that here with Putin, in his advocacy and his beliefs that he is putting forward here. So what do y'all think? Am I just a craven Putin apologist? Let me have it if you want. Or am I right? Or is there something I'm missing? Tell me one way or the other. Let me know. Thanks for watching.